Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 228 and we have a good one for you today. I want to start off this video by first saying I am sorry. Yes, for those of you who are fans of the channel, unfortunately I did miss last week. I just couldn't do it. I was very sick, couldn't talk, and by the time I had recovered I was called away to work, which is why I am recording from a hotel room. There is stuff in the works to have a better system for recording in the future from future hotel rooms, because it does seem like I will be traveling so much for work. There is something in the works now to make it a little bit easier and better on everyone to record for future Fish Fridays. But in the meantime, let's get into the fish, which I hope you enjoy today. Today's fish that we're going to be talking about is, the black pacu. Now, the black pacu, or scientific name Colosoma macropomum. Again, that is Colosoma macropomum. It is part of the family Cerassalmidae, which is the piranha and pacu family. And we've talked about piranhas in the past. We've actually only talked about one piranha in the past, which was kind of weird because it was time to talk about another fish right now. It's kind of bizarre. They're talking about one of the most recognized fish in the world, the piranha, and yet a lot of people don't have a lot of knowledge on them, which is why I wanted to talk with this. And we will probably be having a few piranha pop up in the next couple of Fish Fridays. But, for now, let's talk about the black pacu. Now, the black pacu is native to the Amazon and Orinoco River basins. Amazon River fish, that's not exactly unknown. And they're usually found in main river channels and floodplains. So in the main rivers, and then when it floods, they'll go up to spawn, and they'll come back in. And they really prefer those really shallow, slow-moving areas with floating or overhanging vegetation. That's very key. Notice I said floating or overhanging. They do like being in vegetation, but if it doesn't have floating or overhanging vegetation, they're really not going to be found in that area. That's kind of key. Not kind of key. It's just, if you're really looking for them, you kind of want to find those areas. Whether it has vegetation in the column itself, that's kind of the different story. Now, it is a large fish. In fact, it's the second heaviest scaled freshwater fish in South America. Second heaviest scaled freshwater fish. The first, of course, being the arapaima, it being the largest scaled, but this is actually the second. Now, of course, there are larger fish. You have the like the Amazon red-tailed catfish. That is very obviously a bigger fish. Now, I do also want to iterate, I believe that's more just on native, because I do know in South America there are some populations of tarpon that have been in there. So maybe not. I don't know how much I like that fact, but regardless, it's still a pretty big fish. It can get up to 1.1 meters, which is about 3.6 feet in length, and can weigh up to 44 kilograms, which is 97 pounds in weight. They're usually around that 0.7 meters, which is around 2.3 feet. And the IGFA record is 32.4 kilograms, which is 71 pounds. So you're still talking about a very large fish. A lot of people think piranhas are, really small. Piranhas are actually much larger than people give them credit for and think that they are. They're actually fairly decently sized, and the black pacu is obviously much larger, and it is a piranha. Let's not forget that. Now, in terms of body shape, similar to piranha. I mean, imagine that. You have this very deep-bodied, it's much thicker than the pacu. Much thicker, but it's still Got that kind of basic piranha shape. You remember with the piranhas and a lot of the terracins, you have the adipose fin, a very far setback anal fin with is usually a pointed dorsal fin, usually a little bit of a circle in there. And then usually their dorsal fin is spine. But in terms of coloration, I mean, it's the black Pacu, arched back with, body. The lower half is actually usually the blackest part of it, and the upper half is usually mottled a little gray, yellowish, or olive. And then they not usually, but they very often will have a kind of very pale strip going down their sternum, their chest area, to about the pelvic fin. So, it's not the ugliest fish in the world. In fact, in a way, it's kind of beautiful. But the black Pacu, it really gets its name for that dark spots on the bottom where it's really focused on the half, which is quite often, it's kind of backwards. Because remember, most fish will have the darker colors on tops and the lighter colors on bottom because that allows for counter-shading camouflage. Black Pacu is just the other way. Now, how bright they are and how dark they are is actually dependent on habitat, especially on turbidity. When they're really turbid, they'll get much blacker body, much blacker fins. In fact, their fins are usually pretty dark to begin with, but when they're in very clear water, they'll actually lighten up and kind of get a little coloration and some spotting and modeling to them, really helping them camouflage because they're not exactly the most mobile fish. Not saying they're bad at swimming, but they're not very mobile. Now, this is a very popular fish, both in the aquarium and for commercial fishing or even subsistence fishing. They're actually very widely kept in aquaculture. And because of their environment that they like to live in, they can tolerate very low oxygen environments, those backwaters. They're very resistant to diseases. Excuse me. And that's also why it's actually sold in the aquarium trade. The problem with the aquarium trade, please don't get black Pacu. They actually like to be around other Pacu, and they grow very, very quickly, and they require a very enormous tank. Very, very monstrous tank. So please don't get a Pacu from the aquarium. But a lot of people will fish from for aquaculture and for subsistence farming, is not for subsistence fishing as well, because apparently they're very delicious. They grow fast, they can get big, and there's a lot of meat tied to them. And there's another reason why it's kept for aquaculture, especially down in South America, is that they're very easy to care for. Like I said, low oxygen, very tolerant to diseases, and because they are actually a vegetarian fish, and in fact have some of the most interesting dental patterns of fish. So you can see the black Pacu actually has much more molar-like fish with some really, really sharp cusps, don't get me wrong, but they're much more molar-like than they are from there. And you can see how it actually even goes farther back, especially on the top jaw, how it's really, they get really in there, but they're flat. When you see flat teeth are meant for crushing. They're not meant for, tearing apart limbs. It's like if you as a human are eating, some chicken or turkey, how do you take the meat off the bone? You use your front teeth, your sharper teeth. You might use your back teeth to kind of chew it out, but you're really tearing it from the bone with your front teeth. And like I said, this is a vegetarian fish. They're really more of a frugivorous fish. And I don't know what this term. So frugivorous means they're primarily eating fruit. A nut eating. The other thing they eat is nuts. They eat a lot of nuts. Now the problem is, I know like piscivorous is fish eating, frugivorous is fruit eating. I don't know what nut eating fish terminology means. Please let me know in the comment what it is for eating like tree nuts or walnuts or things like that. Like, what would that sort of, I don't know. That's an interesting. But they're primarily eating nuts and seeds and fruits and things like that. Really, there. And what's really interesting is they actually really like cones, like tree cones. So you think of pine cone, stuff like that. There are cone trees down in South America. There's actually a lot of them. And this fish really likes eating those cones because it crunches. And a lot of, if you've ever taken a pine cone and shaken it, or even cracked one open, you realize yes, it has this kind of hard woody exterior, but inside are all those seeds, and that's what it's really trying to get at, is those seeds. Kind of bizarre. Now, they will eat algae, and they'll eat insects and snails and shrimp and even small fish. So that is why it's such a successful aquaculture fish, is because it will survive all sorts of bad environments, and they're pretty easy to feed. One of the good things about South America is fruit is usually pretty abundant. Fruit and tree nuts and seeds and things like that. So this fish is very easy to care for on a very minimalistic diet, or very native diet, basically. So I really hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, piranha are a very well-known species of fish, or family of fish, group of fish, in terms of immediate identification. But not a lot of people realize like what actually the real neat adaptation these fish have for their environment. So this might be a little bit of a piranha sort of month anyway. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you again. If you'd like to support the channel, please click the link down below. It is by no means expected, but very much appreciated. Again, sorry for last week. I apologize to everyone. I love you all. Thank you so much for the love and support. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones, and peace.